Good morning, everybody. What's going on? It is Monday morning. Get your week started off right. Had our first episode of Iron Minds this morning with my guy Hayden Allred at 6 a.m. This morning. A little workout, a little business talk, a little inspiration, a little motivation. So it's a great start to the week. Hope your week is off to a great start. I'm Trey Griggs with Beta Consulting Group, sales and marketing strategist, looking out for you. If you would, check us out at betaconsultinggroup.com. See how we can help you improve your sales and marketing initiatives, especially your branding and messaging. That's what I love to do. So if you're in need of some of those types of services or just want to see how you're doing, reach out to us and see how we can help you out. And we got a great week of guests this week. I'm so excited. Today's guest is our first repeat guest. We've been going about 5-6 weeks now. And this guy was just so good. One of my first guests, week 3, that we had to have him back on again. So pretty excited today to have him on. And tomorrow, a good friend of mine, Will Lynham, who I started my door-to-door sales career with this guy in the field, had the chance to train him a little bit at the time. And we've kept up and been good friends and golf buddies since that time. So I'm excited to have him on. Mackenzie Boley on Wednesday. Oh my gosh, this girl is fire. Like, talk about ambition and passion and kindness and gentleness. She just has a whole package in that regard. And so very excited to have her on to talk about her entrepreneur journey. And then on Thursday, my good friend Ryan Rogers, the founder and CEO of Text Locate, is going to be on. So that's exciting to do that. We got to fix our graphic here. And then finally on Friday, we got Jennifer Carpus Romaine, who's the executive director of the TMSA, Transportation Marketing and Sales Association. They got a big event, Level Up, coming up in June. I'm very excited to talk to her and hear more about that at the end of the week. So going to be a great week of guests. Make sure that you're here every day at 10:30 a.m. Central on LinkedIn Live, YouTube, and Twitter. And be sure to follow us, like, subscribe, and comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts about the show and for you to be able to know when we're going live each day and get notified and join us. And be sure to leave a comment, especially where you're coming from today on the show. All right, that's enough information about us. Let's get our guest out here today. This guy is an armchair attorney. He's an entrepreneur. He's a son of entrepreneurs. He's business-minded. He's super smart. He's very entertaining as well, which, it's a great combination for lawyers. We have to talk about that when we bring him on. Anyways, let's bring him on. So everybody, welcome Matthew Leffler to the show. Matthew,
Trey,
what's up, brother?
It's great to be back, man. I've been watching you grow so far. It's been phenomenal. Last week was sensational. This week, I'm sure it's going to be even better. So good to be back.
Thank you, man. Good to have you on the show. That last week was amazing. And Charlie Safro on Wednesday was probably the headliner of the week. Just phenomenal. I mean, the whole conversation was great. I can see why people love working for her and with her. So
what I love about Charlie is she's an opportunist. She sees the need that's unmet and she knows how to get there. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of her and what she does. CS Recruiting is phenomenal. They're integral for many supply chain organizations. And it's great to see her on the program. I saw Lauren Began. I love Lauren, a maritime attorney.
On Friday. We had an awesome conversation.
We need more lawyers. I think you just changed this into a lawyer-focused show. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Well, you know what's funny about all that? And Lauren, what's up? Thanks for watching the show. Glad to have you following along today. So appreciate that. But it's funny. I was telling Lauren, between you and Cassandra and Lauren, like, you guys make lawyers cool, and typically lawyers kind of get a bad rap a little bit, but you guys make lawyers pretty stinking cool. Sean, thanks for watching the show.
Sean Cunningham. Yes. Sean, I miss you. How are you? It's so good to hear you.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Where are you guys coming from? Tell us where y'all are coming from today. We always want to hear that. So Matthew, it's been 5 weeks roughly, a little like 2 days short of 5 weeks since we had episode 3, which you were first on. By the way, if you haven't watched that, for those in the comments, everybody watching, go watch episode 3, which was phenomenal. First time actually that we spoke in person, because we were communicating on LinkedIn. That was the first conversation we had, was actually episode 3, which was a lot of fun. What's been going on since then?
Just to start, the advice I give to everybody is find people that inspire you. Follow them, engage with them, and learn about them. That's what I did with you. You have a great brand. You have a great voice, and I'm so excited to be a part of that. As to what's going on with me, a ton, man. We finished up earlier in March, I should say. We had our Give Green Day for Michigan State University College of Law. I'm on the board of my alumni association. We knocked it out of the park when it came to raising funds for that. I was baptized with my church, New Covenant Bible Church, and it was amazing. Thank you, man.
I got to watch it, man. Thanks for sending out the link. That was so amazing. What a cool moment.
It was something that I had wanted to do for my children more than anything. I was baptized as a Catholic, and I love Catholicism. I still believe a lot of the things that the Catholics taught. But for me, it was finding a church that really spoke to the individual relationship with Jesus and with God. And so the baptism was something that I wanted my boys to see their father do. And I wanted them to be proud of it and know that that entire community is praying for them. And my advice to anybody, if you're not religious, you should at least understand what that community aspect is. COVID has made us so isolated over the last few years, and just visiting a church, just seeing what it's like is worth doing. And I look at myself as an advocate first and a witness second. And so whenever I can, I advocate people understand your community. And one place to do that is your local church.
No, absolutely. Community is so important. But here's the caveat I'll say to that. Just always keep in mind that church is made up of sinful people. So it may not be perfect. It may not go well. But according to the Bible, the church is like Jesus' bride, right? So if you're talking about my bride in a bad way, I mean, my bride's not perfect, but she's pretty great. But, don't be talking bad about my bride. Be friendly, be kind. Like, that's how I think of the church in many ways. Like, it's a great community. It's people who are going to be lifting you up and encouraging you. But just keep in mind that there's sinners in there as well. We're all sinners. Nobody's perfect. So the church gets messy too. But I'm a big believer in church as well. And just the community in general. I'll tell you what was really cool about your baptism. I got to watch it was your message that you gave before you got baptized. Some churches, you get up there and they just say, hey, do you believe in Jesus? And they dunk you, right? It's kind of real quick. But your church let you actually communicate why you were doing it. I thought that was so cool. And your message was phenomenal. And you did talk about your kids. You talked about you want to show them the way. You want them to see that. I just thought that was really, really neat, man. So congratulations.
I appreciate that. Cool. Thank you. The thing I'll just kind of put a bow on that is, one of the things that really resonated with me in the Bible is the baptism of Jesus. And the story goes that Jesus comes down to be baptized, and John goes, "No, dude, like, you're Christ. I don't baptize you." And he says, no, this must be done. And when Jesus is baptized, the Father comes out and says, "This is my beloved Son with whom I am well pleased." And that's the message that every son wants to hear. Every son wants to know their Father
100%.
Loves them. And then they're proud of them. And the thing about Christianity that's different than other faiths, I think, is that it's not about acts that you do or deeds that you do. It is the relationship with Jesus Christ that gets you to that place. And so this was a message, like you said, it was a beautiful thing. The story of me finding faith is a long tale. We can talk about that some other time, but it was a great event, and I was so happy to share that. I'm glad you had a chance to watch it. I really appreciate that.
We're gonna have church today up in here. Let me put a bow on your bow. All right. So I would also say this: the thing that that enticed me about Christianity versus any other religion in the world is that, and I'm a math person, so I think of things in terms of numbers and equations and formulas, is that religion in general is man's attempt to reach God. It's kind of our way of trying to make sense of God and reach God and get approval of God. Right. So it's this idea of like you believe in something, there's faith, and then there's works. So it's faith plus works equals this kind of sense of salvation. But in Christianity, it's different. It's faith alone, like just faith in Jesus and what he did, because we can't do anything, equals our salvation. The fact that God saves us and forgives us and redeems us, plus works. The Bible says that we are that he saved us unto works that he's prepared for us ahead of time. So the reason why we do good works and good deeds is out of thanksgiving, out of gratefulness. It's not out of trying to earn. It's like my kids. My kids are Griggs, right? Their last names are Griggs. They don't have to earn that name. It's theirs. They have it. But when they, are showing respect, when they are doing things I ask them to do and doing it out of love, man, it just pleases the Father's heart, right? When my kids choose to love me and choose to do that. And so that's the way I like to think of it. So my bow on your bow, and then we can move on because we got no more comments. Maybe they're tired of hearing this. I don't know. Maybe they're like, I can't talk about this. So what else has been going on, man? So you got baptized, and then the last 3.5 weeks, what else is going on? You got some other things on you.
We had some vacationing. So I am a bad partner to my wife, Holly. I know you're watching this somewhere, and I apologize for not taking you on a honeymoon. We haven't done that yet. Been married almost 14 years.
Really? Oh man, that's rough.
But she did. It is, but she's very, very forgiving, and she understands that I'm a very flawed person. So I'm grateful for that. The thing is, like, my parents are getting older. My wife's parents are getting older. My father will be 70 this year, and we wanted to take a vacation. And my wife found something on VRBO or Verbo. I don't know how you say it. I never heard of it. But when my wife says, I found this technology, I go, okay, tell me all about it. And we found a beach house we rented down in Dauphin Island. So we drove down from Chicago. We stopped in Indy, got with my in-laws, drove to Nashville, stayed there overnight, and then drove down to Dauphin Island. And I had a vacation with my parents, my family, and my in-laws. And it was amazing. We were all in the same house. It was a week-long extravaganza. It was absolutely. My parents and my in-laws are from the same cloth. They're all from Central Illinois. They get along incredibly well. a few months ago, my mother was battling with cancer, and she was able to do the treatments, and she has recovered. And so
Oh, it's
I
awesome.
have a picture I posted yesterday, I think, of my oldest son walking with his grandma on the beach, and it
Oh, that's
was
awesome.
amazing, man. Like, you don't get this time. You only have so much, and you
Mhm.
get the opportunity to do something. You do it. And so I
Yeah.
turned off all my work stuff, and I went on vacation. And then
Good
then
for you,
the
man. Good for
I'll
you.
tell you one of the most fun parts. Any vacation has to have a disaster. It just has to. Then you remember it better. So the disaster we had was the last night we were in Alabama. We get this weather advisory, and our phones are blowing
Mhm.
up. Tornado watch, tornado warning, gale force winds. And I'm like, this is going to be ridiculous. So we were in a massive storm. It was like fireworks. The lightning was going so quickly. My youngest son, 6 years old, slept through the entire thing, never woke up.
Of course.
My parents and my in-laws, they just
What you
turn
love it
off
about
their
kids?
phones.
Man,
Absolutely. They're resilient.
so
But my
good.
in-laws, they just turn off the phone. They've had a good run. They don't care if this is the end. But me and my wife and my oldest son are just terrified under a bunk bed going, I really hope we make it through. And we did. It was great. So it was a good time.
That's so funny. No, that sounds great. So you were able to turn it off. Like, you shut it down. You didn't do any work for a week.
That's right.
You know,
I'm
that's gotta
I
for mo I gotta say, for most people, that's gotta be odd and awkward and uncomfortable. What were the benefits of doing that for a week? And whatever else you were gonna say, sorry, I cut
Yeah.
you off.
Oh, no, you're good. I mean, we are not meant to work all the time. I grew up with an entrepreneur. My father had, like I said, 4 kids. He had Josh, Matt, Jackie, and outsourced fleet services. The one that required the most attention was outsourced fleet services. That's what he spent his time on. He did not stop. He could not stop. Every
Very
day,
hard.
even on vacations, he would put time aside to work. And it became this thing where you knew, don't bother dad when he's working. Don't bother dad when he's working.
Yeah.
And I don't want that for my family. Work doesn't matter. I mean, none of this matters ultimately. The only thing that matters is that future that we're all hoping to get to. We're praying for that. So when you have time to take to yourself, you have to do it, and you have to prioritize things that matter. And unfortunately, work doesn't always matter the most. It's important, and work needs you to recuperate, because that's when you can
Right.
decompress, you can think, you can deliberate, and you can come back refreshed. So it was hard, but I made it easier by not bringing any of the materials that I would require to do work. So I didn't have
Yeah,
my
yeah.
work phone or my work laptop. I had
Good
my
for
phone, and that
you.
was it.
So I did that last summer for the first time in, years, because a lot of our vacations had been like, go to the TIA conference, my family comes, and then we spend the weekend at Disney or whatever Universal, like those types of vacations. This last summer, we were up at the Dells, and for an entire week, I didn't do any work. And I remember the first 2 days, I was like jittery. My wife was like, "Are you okay?" But it just felt so uncomfortable. And then as I processed it, I went, "This is not healthy. That it's uncomfortable." That I take 2 days off of work and I don't know what to do. Like, I can't think, or I can't function. And so that was a real eye opener to me. But I think you're right. When you take that time off and you're able to give your brain some margin, some space to think about other things, or to maybe think about work, but in a creative way, as opposed to trying to be just productive or get things done. You start to come up with some different ideas. Oh, maybe we should try this when I get back. And there were a couple times where I wrote a few things down just so I didn't forget them, but then I set them off to the side. But that was so healthy to have time where I wasn't even thinking about work, and what it did for my ability to think, my ability to be creative, my ability to enjoy my family even more. Because after 2 days, I started to go, okay, this is what it's going to be like for the
Yeah,
rest of the
yeah.
week. And it was fun. It wasn't like I didn't want to be there. I loved being there, but it was like work was such a big thing. And I think for Americans, that's a really difficult thing to do, is to unplug and to let
We
go of some things, especially
we
now.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, as a culture, have made taking time off a taboo. And the
Yeah.
fact that you can take vacation, there's people who, like, it's a sense of prestige by how hard you work. Look, I was an attorney. I practiced law for years. And the way it was done is every 4 hours, you check your email. You wake up in the middle of the night and you check your
Are you
email. If there's
serious?
a
Oh,
client,
wow.
absolutely. If you're doing
I
M&A
wouldn't have
deals,
made it as a lawyer. That's a good
it's a
thing I
tough
didn't do
business.
that.
Your entire livelihood in most aspects of this business is how
Yeah.
productive you are, how many hours
Mm.
you bill. My father-in-law is a great man, and he's been retired now for a couple of years, and he said the same thing that you mentioned. It takes 2 days. You go on vacation for 3 days. 2 days is just to get ready for the vacation, to break the habits of checking emails, instant gratification, instant fulfillment. Work has become gamified. You can go on to Slack or Teams or anything else. You still have to be able to decompress and get unplugged.
So true. Well, hey, you're not the only one, because Lance Healy says it took him 18 years to take his wife on a honeymoon. Lucky to still be married. So you got a few more years, but you might want to pull that one off soon. So let me ask this question. I know your wife might be watching. Where would you guys go? If you could just, pull the trigger and go do a honeymoon right away, where'd you go?
Oh my goodness. I mean, you said the Dells, so I'm thinking about the Dells, but I'd bring the kids then. I don't think I don't know the answer to that. Honestly, the vacation we took here, I lack creativity in these things. I don't plan that way. So if I had to just say, where are we going to go? Somewhere in the mountains. I'd like to be in the mountains. I don't like flying necessarily. This is a quick little aside about myself. I'm deathly afraid of flying. I just don't like it. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. Shame. The airplane is so much bigger and heavier than the air around it. And then you're up in the clouds and you're bouncing, and they say, well, it's like potholes. But the reality is, look, I've been out there. You look around, there's no potholes. It's just air. It's just air.
That's right.
So it doesn't make any sense. I assume it's man.
And yet it's safer than driving or any other form of transportation.
That's what they say. That's a statistic. I don't believe. Anecdotal evidence is all I believe in. No, you're right. I fly a ton. I just distract myself with podcasts and games to keep my mind from.
Oh man, I love flying. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. I wish I had wings. I really do. Because I absolutely love to fly. I almost became a flight attendant in college just because I thought, what a cool part-time job just to, go fly and come back, and, you can study a little bit and all this kind of thing. So I almost did that, but I love flying. It's like my favorite thing to do. But I'm a physics guy. I'm a physics teacher by trade. So yeah, the concept of lift, Lauren's got that. The concept of lift is a verifiable force in nature. It does work. Right. It does work with an atmosphere. It doesn't work without an atmosphere. So as long as you're here in an atmosphere, you should be good for the most part. But
as you mentioned, the physics part of this is why I love Mondays so much. Mondays for me are kinetic. This is momentum, the potential energy of the week that gets brought into kinetic as the day goes forward. So I'm a huge fan of anything when it comes to physics. I'm a big proponent of that, but I'm still a coward. So I will defer to the experts.
Sorry, I was muted. I do know some friends that I know will not fly alone because they're afraid. But I always think that's funny when somebody won't fly alone, because what can I do? They're not going to let me fly this thing. I don't know what I'm going to do. Just flying with you, but whatever. We'll try it.
I just look at the flight attendants and see if they get terrified. And if they're terrified,
right.
then I know I should.
Yeah, if they're calm, you should be in pretty good shape.
That's what I do.
Mackenzie's gonna be on the show on Wednesday, and she's incredible. So make sure you come back, everybody, to hear from Mackenzie Boley. You're gonna love it. You're not gonna be disappointed at all. 10:30 on Wednesday. Mackenzie, thanks for watching the show. So glad to have you on the show.
And please, Mackenzie, give me some ideas. I need to think about this. There's only so much time left.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm a big vacation planner, like surprise vacation planner. I like to surprise my wife with vacation plans, which that can be dicey. In fact, I surprised my wife with our honeymoon. She didn't even know we were going on our honeymoon. So, you can have fun with it. That's for sure.
I got married when I was still in law school. So I skipped an evidence course to go get married. And I didn't have,
really?
Now my wife has just gotten home from taking my son to the doctor, and the dog is upset about this. So I apologize in advance
for
her antics.
Yeah, I think Mackenzie's getting married too soon. So we might have to, I think that's right. Or maybe she just got married. I can't remember, but yeah, we'll have to get her. So I'll also let everybody know. I honeymooned to Vancouver Island, British Columbia. And I'll tell you what, awesome. Absolutely magnificent. Congratulations, Mackenzie. Looking forward to that. But absolutely magnificent Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Well, here's the advice I'll give you. All right. Now this is when you get married. This might not be like later honeymoons, like your situation, because you guys have been married for a long time. But when I got married, my mentor said to me, he said, listen, don't go somewhere where there's high levels of activity, because then you'll feel like you have to do everything. And he goes, you're not going to want to do everything. You're going to be tired. You want to rest. You want to spend time with your spouse, your first time getting to really just be alone with them. And so go somewhere where you can just rest. And so I thought, that's a good idea. So I was looking for private log cabins, and I was looking in Michigan, and I was looking in Minnesota. And in Minnesota, with all the lakes, they were like, there's mosquitoes everywhere. You don't want to come here. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. So we love the West Coast. So I was looking in Vancouver, and I found this really cool little place called Point No Point Resort. It's right outside of Sook, British Columbia, Sooke, British Columbia. This was back in '05. So this was like the internet was still kind of new and you weren't sure if you could trust it or not, right? You didn't really know. Well, it's not like today where you believe everything on the internet. Back then, you just didn't know. So I called this company and I said, hey, I'm bringing my new bride out here. Are these cabins legit? Like, is this real? I need you to be honest with me right now because she doesn't know. I don't know. I can't come out there to check it out. And they were like, no, you're going to love it. And they described everything. And it was everything they described. We had a private deck. We had a private log cabin, had a hot tub out on the deck, private deck, a west-facing view of the ocean, sunset view, a large king-size bed, an oversized soaking bathtub, a fireplace. They brought fresh firewood every night. Like, it was perfect. We slept 12 hours a day for the first 2 days. No joke. And these oversized chairs, we just sit in them and fall asleep. I mean, we just slept the whole time. It was awesome. It was just relaxing. It was wonderful. Got some massages, did a little drive, did some hiking. It was just phenomenal. So that's my advice for newlywed, honeymoons. Maybe yours. I don't know if that's a good advice.
It sounds ideal. I mean, anything to get away from
really
stuff.
Was.
I mean, the thing is, we are so distracted as a culture by everything. I mean, it is so much things competing for your attention. Just to get back to somewhere where you can see real water moving, see trees moving in the wind. This is the life that we were.
Nature, right?
Absolutely. It worked for 200,000 years for humans. It can still work. It still does. It still relaxes you. Now, another thing I want to mention to you is later this week, Michigan State University College of Law will be having a law and supply chain symposium. And I am so excited about this because the law is integral. It is inseparable from our supply chain. And the changes that we see, that's why I love Lauren so much, because she educates me about maritime, which I have no idea what that world is like. I know ground transportation to a certain degree, but it's really exciting for this. This will be on Thursday. I think that I have something in my own profile, but if anyone wants to check it out, please just ping me separately. I'll be happy to help people get involved with it. But some of the guests we have are just incredible. Britton Ladd, who's a massive thinker in the space of micro fulfillment and supply chain, generally. Lauren and a whole bunch of others. So Michael Kaiser, who is an in-house attorney for an electric vehicle startup company. So there's a lot of really, and Evelyn Smith from Dell. That is cool. Evelyn actually, she was at, go ahead. I was going to say, Evelyn she was at Dell and she told me, and you'll probably talk about this on the symposium, she had merchandise on the Ever Given that got stuck in the Suez Canal.
Oh, no.
So how do you get your stuff out of a boat that's blocked?
Right.
It's a really interesting question. I'm hoping to find out the answer later this week.
And you think about it from a legal perspective, it's kind of those things you don't really think about if you're not in the game, if you're not really involved. But when you think about the global supply chain now, which truly is global, and maritime law and international law, and then laws, the federal laws, state laws, all of it kind of goes together to make all this work. The supply chain in general is just absolutely fascinating of how it all just continues to work. The fact that it hasn't broken before now has been crazy. I mean,
this is what makes it so fascinating. To your point, like supply chain, you can't opt out of it. It's everything.
Right.
It's every manufacturer, every distribution company, every retailer. They have to have a supply chain for these things. And supply chain functions off of contracts and how contracts are interpreted and who is the regulatory body that adjudicates when a contract is in dispute. And so all of these things is, how do you do business at the very base is law. It's law.
Not only do people not know how their toilet paper gets to the grocery store on en masse, but they also don't know that every truck that brings something has a contract attached to that shipment. Like there's a legal binding contract to get it there. And that's that's bar none. Every one of them. There's not one shipment that goes that doesn't have some sort of contract attached to it. 100%. And what happens when it breaks? What happens when it doesn't deliver on time, gets stolen, shows up damaged, whatever it might be? How do you process all that?
Law is the foundation of the business, and it's the way you solve problems. It is. It's a pejorative in some senses that lawyers or whatever they are. I will tell you, we tell the best stories. If you ever want to talk about toxic tort litigation and diacetyl,
get a lawyer at a bar.
Flavoring agent. Yeah, absolutely. Right. we love talking about the things that we see. Doctors and lawyers, we're very good friends generally.
I'd love to hear some doctor stories too, because I'm sure doctors, especially surgeons and others, have seen some pretty crazy stuff in their
absolutely.
Without a doubt, no doubt about it. All right, so let's talk about because I'm starting the entrepreneur journey. And there's a lot of people here, Lauren, we talked about her starting her entrepreneurial journey as well. There's a lot of people that are in the comments that are entrepreneurs or leading companies like that. Man, what are some thoughts when you think about entrepreneurs? If somebody said, hey man, what should I focus on, or what's something I should think of that maybe no one's told me about as an entrepreneur? What are some things you would throw out there?
In terms of like business ideas, or just what should you think about when you're looking to become an entrepreneur? The thing I would look at
Yeah.
first of all is you have to understand what problem you're solving. If you're coming out here saying, I think that I just have this idea and it's going to work, you need to do your research and you need to understand what are the ways the problem is solved today, because the problems aren't new. That's the key thing. There are very few new problems. Most problems have been around for a period of time. So if
Right.
you want to get into the business of solving problems and being an entrepreneur, you have to have that mentality of, one, you're never complacent. There is never a solution that exists that is good enough, because if it is, then you wouldn't be doing it. And so what got my father to do it more than anything was he wanted to build something, wanted to create something. So artists are creators, they're entrepreneurs. Owner
Yeah.
operators are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Understand the problem that you want to solve, and then understand how you bring different values to that problem. You can bring technology and you can bring your personality, you can bring your network, but if you don't understand the problem, get out of the business. You shouldn't be in it, because if you don't understand the problem that people are facing, you're never going to have a successful business.
Yeah. And I love that. And sometimes you do come up with an idea that you think might work, but you got to test it out in the marketplace. Like you got to, give it some wheels and see how it does, and then be willing to pivot. Because, a lot of times when you think about, sorry about that. When you think about business, it's all about the pivot sometimes. Like you might think, okay, I'm going to go this direction, but then the market doesn't maybe respond to that. And you need to pivot. And here's what I've learned already, just in about 3 months. Here's what I've learned already is, if I can find the sweet spot between where I'm skilled, number one, where I'm passionate, number two, and what the market needs, number three. If I can line those three up, that to me is a formula for success, for winning.
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to be acting where I know I can do it. I love what I'm doing, and the market actually wants it. If you can line those up almost as a Venn diagram and find out what's in the middle, and then you run with that. To me, that's where you really can take advantage of being an entrepreneur.
That's a great point. I mean, just one of your guests later this week, Ryan from Text Locate, right? Is it Ryan Rogers?
Yeah.
So one of the things that he was very clear about understanding is drivers don't want your app. Drivers don't want your app. Drivers,
many of them don't.
Plenty of apps.
Many of them.
There's apps for everything. There's apps for everything. And so one of the main principles behind Text Locate was communication through text messages. And that's incredible. If you can help people do something that they have to do, but don't create those barriers of having to download an app. Because if you have a company phone, maybe you can't download apps. Maybe there's a whole bunch of other barriers.
Right.
So this is what makes it so interesting. Entrepreneurs are creative destroyers. And I like to look at the example Facebook did years ago, where they would show people what you've recently purchased. So the story was that somebody had bought an engagement ring, and the soon-to-be person to be proposed to saw that person bought the thing. And then it became a big story. It's like, oh my gosh, what a disaster Facebook has done. What a disaster. But the reality was Facebook said, oh, this isn't how we're going to get people to use our platform. But that same understanding of what people buy to influence others to buy similar things, we can still take that same code and that same kind of solution, but put it to a different problem. You don't need to know that your neighbor bought a new hot tub or bought a new whatever. You need to know who's buying what and what prices might look like. So I agree with you. You've got to be able to pivot when you realize that what you're offering isn't what your customer wants to buy. Understand your customer, understand your competitors, understand your product. Those three things will make any entrepreneur successful.
I love it. I absolutely love it, man. It's so exciting to just talk about these things. I know, and I didn't realize that you had the entrepreneurial bent until you told the story about your dad. Growing up with an entrepreneur, you start to see these things, you start to kind of think that way, and it really just starts to make sense. And so these are, I think, really helpful tips. But I've learned so much. I told Chris Jolly recently, because we're both kind of on this journey together. He's doing his thing, I'm doing mine. I just told him, man, I feel like every day I'm learning something new that's useful. So it's not like I'm learning things just to learn them. I'm actually learning things that help my business. I'm learning different ways to do different things. And so it's really, really helpful. Lance, what's up? Yeah, driver apathy, no doubt about it. And the thing about, because I used to work at Trucker Tools, I don't want to steal Ryan's thunder on Thursday, but it wasn't so much that he's trying to eliminate apps. He's trying to fix the gap for the ones who won't download or can't download an app, and make life easier for a person who's making a phone call. So sometimes the solution is actually quite simple, because his product is incredibly simple. He didn't have to build an app. He just had to, connect with text messaging services. And now he's providing a cool service.
You can fall in love with your solution, or you can fall in love with the problem. If you want to be an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, You fall in
Yeah.
love with the problem. To speaking to your point of you and Chris Jolly, this is exactly what I think makes you guys so powerful in the space. This is a vacuum right now. Content creators, content ownership is one of the biggest trends. We've seen Amazon buying MGM because they need the content.
Right.
So there is an appetite for content. And what I tell people, because I started making videos because it was a fun thing to do, creative outlet. If I get one or two people that look at it and go, that was interesting, that's enough. Like, 'cause I do this for me.
Exactly.
I do it for me. I don't make money doing it. I just do it because I enjoy it. So what I hope that you continue doing this, and I'm so excited to watch your journey grow.
Well, so far we've made it 25 days in a row, weekdays that is, which is exciting, and just have an absolute blast doing it. And again, I appreciate you being back on the show again for round 2. We're definitely going to schedule round 3, maybe like June, July, something like that. Give the people what they want. But Matthew, thank you so much for being on the show again, man. Really appreciate it. And for those of you that are watching, again, make sure you come back for more shows this week, especially on Wednesday with Mackenzie Bully, who's in the comments, and all the rest are going to be awesome as well. For another episode of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership, brought to you by Beta Consulting Group. Love you guys. Thanks so much. Have a great week. We'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.